Alright guys, sneak peek of the next build. This is an old KWA. You can see the old KWA logo right here. I've never had a body style like this before with the really old KWA logo, so I wanted to get that. It was pretty sick. The whole gun right here was pretty cheap as well, so figured I'd pick it up. For the upper, it had a really bad spray paint job on it. It was all bubbling, so it looked really bad. So I just sanded it. Usually don't like to give guns a weathered look, but the spray paint was so bad I wanted to get rid of all of it. It was all bubbled up and cracked and stuff, so I wanted to get rid of all that old spray paint and just brought it down to either the original paint or bare metal. So for the most part, all the spray paint's gone. There's no more bubbling on it. And then I wasn't going to sand the lower because it wasn't spray painted and it still had the original KWA logo. So this will be the next build right here. Alright guys, just opened the KWA for the first time. Top half the gearbox shell doesn't look bad. A little bit of grease. Pull out the spring here. It's the stock KWA bearing spring guide. So whatever we do with this build, we'll keep this in there. I obviously don't know what FPS this spring is doing. We'll probably keep it in there for now. If it's anything like my Block 2, it should be FPS should be fine for that. Pull out the compression setup, we'll take a look at the piston. Holy shit, alright. So, wasn't expecting that. So it was AOE corrected at some point. Obviously it came off of the cylinder head. So there's that. If you look at the piston head, there's some pretty good gouges in it right here. You can actually feel that with your finger, they're sharp. And then it's pretty rough. I don't like these anyways because there's no ports in them, they're just solid, so I was probably going to change that out anyways. As for the piston, it's pretty good. The teeth look fine. Kind of confused though, I don't know, I'll see what it looks like. There's just, usually you remove that, you take this tooth down a little bit when you correct the AOE because it usually hits it. But maybe this gun didn't see a lot of rounds after the AOE corrected it. Then we'll pull this out. Tappet plate looks pretty good. Not a lot of wear on it, so we'll be able to reuse that. Looks like one O-ring in the nozzle, so we'll be keeping that as well. That's probably the stock KWA nozzle. The cylinder itself is really dirty on the outside. We'll see what it looks like on the inside in a minute. It's stuck on there pretty good, so probably could have checked the air seal, I'm sure it was good. And then you can see where that pad went. It actually looks like it was the stock pad that came on it, not AOE corrected. So yeah, it wasn't AOE corrected, this just came off for whatever reason. Usually the stock pad, you don't have an issue with it. But that's where that came from. I can just glue that back in or do a different cylinder head, something like that. So inside the cylinder is pretty dirty. You can see the O-ring a little dirty as well. So we'll just clean that up. We'll probably reuse that cylinder because it's a full port or a full cylinder with no ports. We'll check out the gears real quick. So sector gear, it's a little worn down, but all of the teeth look to be fine. And then you know KWA, there's no shims on these things. So for this gun, I don't know what I'm going to do with it yet. I might be able to get my hands on a Titan pretty soon that has the wires chewed out, so I might be able to get it for a decent price, just to repair it myself because it's not that hard when you know how to solder. So I might be getting a Titan for this, or I might wait and put the Titan in something else because it's going to be a week or two before I can get it. So I might do a basic MOSFET in here, I might wait and do a Titan in here. Then for the gears, I did get the 16:1 SHS gears off of Airsoft Atlanta and a SHS DSG. So I don't know if I'm going to DSG this or what. Obviously if I decide to DSG this, the Titan's going to go in there with it. If I don't Titan this, don't DSG it, I'll probably just short stroke the gear set. We'll figure it out, we're not there yet. And then bevel gear looks fine. These KWA gears are shaped kind of weird, but bevel gear is fine. Spur gear. Oh, look at that, there's a shim on it. Crazy. Spur gear looks fine as well. I can't tell. I haven't opened a KWA in a while. I can't tell if these bearings are actually different, or if KWA just puts them in like that in the factory. This one's like a little bit bigger than this one. And trigger doesn't really matter. And then you can already see on the trigger contacts on the trolley side, there's a bunch of solder right there. So I'm assuming they were doing that for trigger pull. Try to make a little bit of a hair trigger. And then it looks like the screw for the trigger, or the post for the trigger trolley broke, like it did on that 416 I just made, or just built in the last video. So it looks like they replaced that as well. So I mean, at least I don't have to do that because it takes a little while. But yeah, we'll do something about that. If we're gonna keep, you know, a normal trigger contact setup, we'll put a new trolley in there. If we do Titan, obviously it doesn't matter. We'll polish the guide rails. We'll polish the guide rails here. And then, so our options are short stroking the KWA gear set in here, doing 3 teeth, 2 off of the pickup, 1 off the release. And we'll set it up like that. It'll probably be around 20 RPS, depending on the motor. I usually only use torquey motors. Obviously doing a speed motor would bring it up a bit. Or I can do the 16:1 SHS gears, and with the DSG I bought, just use standard 18:1 gears, just out of the tech room. Or I can put the DSG in here. So it just kind of depends what we end up doing. I just want to take this apart real quick, see what we were working with. And then the other issue with it was the wiring harness was chopped. So that's why I wasn't able to fire it or anything. It didn't come with a motor either. So that's what I've got. It's not too bad. It's obviously got some damage to it, but it's nothing crazy. It's pretty easy to fix and build something out of this. Alright guys, so I don't feel like taking apart my JMP right now, the new build. So I'm just going to go really quick over the externals and a little bit of the Titan settings. So you guys have probably seen the upper before. It's just a GMP receiver set. But I did get some new stuff from e-bike. So I already had the Dytac rails on there, but we've got the BCM grip finally. And then we have a new light mount. So it's actually made to sit in there like that, as you can see. Before I had just a standard like M-lock rail segment, just sitting in there with 1 screw, but now we've got 2 screws in there for the light, so it sits a little bit better right there. I'm just waiting on the thread adapter so I can push the outer barrel out a little bit. That way I can have the can on there, so when I go to dreadnought, I can have the can with a little bit of a longer inner barrel, get the FPS up probably to like 360, 370 instead of the 350 it's at right now. For the Titan settings, I should have the video of the precock, but right now, obviously high speed, gear ratio 12:1, active brake is on. And then for precocking, I have it set to 29 milliseconds right now. That'll be the second part of the video where it resets a little bit further. Before I had it at 26 milliseconds, I'm going to call that like medium precocking. 29 is a little bit higher precocking, probably about 80%. Yeah, it's probably about 80%. So it took me a little while to figure out how to set the precock on here, but once you figure it out, it's pretty easy. I started at halfway, which was like 120 milliseconds, because I didn't know how this worked, and that was a 6-shot burst. So then if you go all the way down to 26 milliseconds, it's probably about 60% precock. At 29 milliseconds, it puts this setup at about 80 to 90% precock. So that's how I have that set up. With the trigger, with the set screw setup, the first 2 stages don't matter, but then the 3rd stage is fire. So you can see right there, that's my trigger pull, and it fires right there. Those are pretty much the only settings. It's not in advance, so I don't have any statistics. All I have is how many shots been fired, so it's a pretty new build, 2400 rounds. I played with it twice. And then it's not fucked right now, so no errors detected. And then that's pretty much the only settings that really matter.